This is Miguel Lebron, the host of Strategy Rewind, a podcast that focuses on the mindset and strategy necessary for a breakthrough moment. I'm so happy that you could be here connected today. If you're listening on the Strategy Rewind podcast, let me talk to you a little bit about the Wisdom application. It's an application that allows you to connect through audio only. No video, no images, just audio. You can answer questions or ask questions or even go live like I'm doing right now. As you go live, you can also have individuals join the conversation, and well, it becomes more of a community. I think it's going to be a powerful, powerful application. And as I mentioned, I'm using it right now. So I want to encourage you to download the Wisdom application. And no, if you do it, there's no money I'm going to get. I'm simply encouraging you to download the application and become part of the conversation. Also, these recordings that I'm doing on the Wisdom application are going to become part of the Strategy Rewind podcast. So I'm so happy that you're connected on the podcast here today. Of course, those that are connected right now with me on the Wisdom application, if you want to join on the conversation, just go ahead and smash that button and we can add you as a guest and you can become part of this conversation here today. What is the topic of conversation, you ask? Today we're asking the question, what does it mean to think strategically? What does it mean to think strategically? We've heard this idea of think strategically, right? Or at least I hope we have. This idea of thinking strategically, at least for me as a personal growth strategist, I help individuals think strategically. That's my job as a personal growth strategist. I help individuals think strategically. But the question is, what is it to think strategically? What does it mean to think strategically? Let me go back just a little bit. I want to define the word breakthrough for you, just in case if you haven't heard, at least the way I like to define it is that breakthrough is an aha moment. It's that moment where your understanding of something, your knowledge of something, and your skills finally match up. And then you are able to accomplish the very things you aspired to accomplish. You've probably heard people say that you have to fake it until you make it. I don't buy into that idea. The reason I don't buy into that is because what exactly are you faking? You're faking the ability to know how to do it. But oftentimes we know how to do something, we just don't trust our ability to see it through. And so in that moment, you would trust the information and trust that eventually your skills will level up and be able to gel with that information. And that's that breakthrough moment. It's that aha moment. It's that moment that light bulb comes out and you realize, oh, I've had the tools all along. I just wasn't using it the right way. That's a breakthrough moment. And when we talk about being able to have these moments where it all makes sense, these moments where we can put it all together, these moments where we can finally live out what we aspire to live out, where we desire to accomplish something, and finally we are doing it. When we have that moment, it's because something took place in our life, it's because the road became clear. And while you may have experienced that by yourself, think about how much faster you could have had that experience with a personal growth strategist. Because the idea is, as a personal growth strategist, that I would help you think strategically. But again, that begs the question, what does it mean to think strategically? To think strategically is to be able to pivot and provide a solution even in the moment where you feel like there isn't one. Think about all the times you've set forth a goal, and yet something happens that derails you. Something happens along the way that scares you. Something happens along the way where you feel like you won't be able to accomplish. Instead of pushing forward or pivoting or trying to look for a solution, oftentimes people look for the hill. They look for the exit. They walk away. They say, forget it, I've done enough. But when we talk about thinking strategically, it's the capability of being able to pivot. And there is a massive difference of being reactionary and being able to pivot. Oftentimes we've said, don't be reactive, be proactive, right? You've probably heard this phrase before. Don't be reactive, be proactive. The idea of being proactive is that you would put everything in place, that you would get ready, almost like if you were getting ready for a meeting you're going to have in the morning. You would then pack up all your things, make sure your breakfast is ready, your lunch is ready, so when you wake up, you can get going. Like you're being proactive as opposed to being reactive. The alarm goes off and you start going off to the races. Well, we often misthink. We assume that being reactive is the same as pivoting. And it isn't the truth. Because when you pivot, you have a clear objective of where you're going, and all you're doing is going 2 inches to the left or 2 inches to the right, or maybe taking one step back to take three forward. Pivoting is understanding what's happening in your surrounding and making the absolute necessary move to continue forward. I'll give you an example. Several years ago, we had an event which is a worldwide event known as the pandemic. When the pandemic took place, at that moment, I was working in a nonprofit organization. One of the things that we needed to figure out, and we needed to figure out quick, was how were we going to function without having any gatherings? Well, it just so happened that years before, I had made the decision to go ahead and start streaming the services and the events that we were having. So we were streaming to YouTube, we were streaming to Facebook, and any other social media channel that we had developed at that particular moment. When the pandemic happened and everyone was scrambling, trying to react to what was happening, well, my leaders looked at me, my directors looked at me, and they said, Miguel, what do we do? And I said, we already have the infrastructure. We simply pivot. We start giving everything online, where maybe we would have given maybe 60 to 75% online. We now go 100% online. We weren't being reactive to what was happening. We were being able to pivot. We were thinking strategically. And so as the pandemic started coming to an end and things were able to now function and at least come together as some type of capacity, we then brought down the number that as opposed to going 100% online, we came down from 100 to 95 to 85 to 75. That's pivoting. Being reactive is trying to figure out in the moment. It's juggling all these balls and realizing this is too much for me to handle. And if I don't do something, I'm going to drop everything. That's being reactive. So often we are being reactive and we think that we're doing a good job because, well, in this illustration of juggling all these balls, well, none of them are touching the ground. So I guess I'm doing it the right way. And the answer still is no. The idea would be that you are being able to pivot and that you are able to bring a solution even when it feels like there isn't a possible solution. In order to do this correctly, you would have to take under consideration the giants and the dragons you'll meet on your journey. In every journey, there is a treasure to obtain, and there are giants and dragons that you will face in every journey. And so you take into consideration that you know that pretty soon giants and dragons will appear. But when you're facing the fire breathing dragon, you don't run. You don't head for the hills. You don't look for the nearest exit because you have in your sight the treasure. You have in your sight what success is for you. Success for you is obtaining that breakthrough moment. It's obtaining that treasure. It's getting to the other side. And so take into consideration as you establish your goals, some possible difficulties. When you determine that you want to begin to change, it is possible that there are people around you that will root for you. However, it is also possible that people around you may say you can't do it, may say to you, you'll never accomplish. In fact, they'll say to you, you've tried too many times, and every time you try, you fail. Or they'll even ask you, who do you think you are, thinking that you can accomplish this goal? Dragons and giants. This is a moment where then you have to make the decision. The treasure is greater than the challenge. The treasure is greater than the challenge. You have to pick your fear. Are you more scared of the fire breathing dragon and the one eyed giant? Or are you scared of never actually opening the treasure chest and obtaining your treasure? This is what you have to begin to think about. And as you lay down your goals, as you begin to think about your goals and you begin to envision the journey from point A to point B, as you begin to envision the journey, think about what are some possible challenges that I may encounter, and what is it going to require for me to overcome those challenges. Now, that doesn't mean that these challenges will come up, but as we answer the question of what does it mean to think strategically, someone who thinks strategically is able to imagine if the situations were to come up, what would they be? Well, if I'm attempting to save money, it may be possible that in the process of saving money, there's a bunch of birthday parties, and now I may feel like I gotta pay bills and buy gifts. Or if in the process of trying to maybe lose weight, well, now I'm tempted with all of these other yummy delectables. Whatever you choose to do, whatever goal you lay before you, it's good to know what the possible giants and dragons, the possible challenges may be. Because as you begin to think about beforehand those particular challenges, you can then begin to ask yourself this most important question: what kind of person do I need to be in order to defeat the giants and dragons? What kind of person does it require in order to defeat the giants and dragons? Because the version that you are now is not the one that would do it. And think about it. The version of you that you are now may not be willing to go through the danger, may not be willing to go through the sacrifice, may not be willing to go through the pressures of the journey. But the version of you that is willing, that version resides in you. And if you seek hard enough, if you focus on that, you will find that version. Oftentimes, that version is manifested within the journey, and it is revealed at your breakthrough moment. We often talk about being successful and having success. Well, did you know that in the etymology of the word success, success has more to do with the preparation than what it does with the outcome? If you take that under consideration, ask yourself, how many times have I failed even before I take in flight? Not before anyone saw me trip or fall or stumble, but how many times have you failed even before you got off the ramp? Even before you actually took flight, only because you did not think strategically, because you did not take into consideration the possibility that when you decide to grow, everyone around you will not see it possible. You did not take into consideration that when you decide to chase that dream, everyone around you may doubt. You didn't think that that was possible. We often assume that in the moment that we're going to make a change, that everyone will applaud the change. I've got news for you. Not everybody wants to see you change. Because for some people, as long as you stay where they are, it justifies them staying where they are. Let me say this again. For some people, as long as you stay where you are, it justifies them staying where they are. Like if you don't get better, then there's no reason for them to think that they have to get better. There's no reason for them to pursue something better. But in the moment that you determine to yourself, I'm going to get better, I'm going to break through, I'm going to see greatness, I'm going to be successful, I'm going to go after the treasure, even if it causes me to confront the giants and the dragons. In the moment you say that, someone is going to arise and say, don't do it, it's not worth it. There's always going to be someone. And I know what you're thinking. There's always a naysayer. There's always a hater. No. There's always someone that realizes that if you move, they have no excuse. You don't know whose parachute you are, right? You don't know who's holding on in stagnation only because you refuse to move. You realize that so many people get bothered sometimes when you say, I'm going to change this about me. I'm going to stop drinking. I'm going to stop partying. I'm going to focus on my studies. I'm going to stop staying out late. I'm going to stop doing X, Y, Z. I'm going to focus in. And you think that everyone would celebrate this positive decision. And yet many individuals say, why would you do that? You're going to mess it up for us. Mess what up? The fact that I have been someone who has almost justified being stagnant. Think about the possibility that as you seek to grow and as you seek to get better, some individuals indeed will not embrace your growth. And that's okay. This is why it's important for you to recommit every single day. It's important for you to know exactly why you're doing what you're doing. Why did you go on this journey? Why did you set that goal? Keep your why crystal clear because this will allow you to recommit. And so when we talk about identifying your why, you have to understand your values. You have to understand your values. What is most important to you? What is most important to you? And if what's most important to you is your family, well then you need to maybe stop spending so much time with your friends and start spending time with your family. Maybe stop hanging out so much. Maybe stop doing all these other things that don't allow you to be present for your family. Because otherwise, you're giving up that value. Otherwise, it really isn't a value. Because if it was value, you would do anything to ensure that nothing would stand in the way of that coming alive in your life, of that holding the top place in your life. So you identify your values. And once you've identified your values, you set the goal. And as these opportunities come up, you ask yourself, how does this opportunity align with my values? How does this opportunity align with my goal? It doesn't, then I need to walk away. It does, then I need to push forward. Is to think about all of the offers that you are consistently being made. You're bombarded with offers when you decide to make a change. And think about those moments that you have said yes to things that in the middle of doing them, you said, man, I wish I never said yes. What did you give up in order to say yes? Because when you say yes to something, you're also saying no to something else. And I would hope that it's not that in the price of saying yes to an opportunity that you dislike, I hope that the price is not you settling and pushing aside your values. You establish your values, that then influences your goals. And as you are setting forth a strategy to accomplish your goal, you begin to think strategically. You begin to think of what is it going to require on a daily basis? What is the ritual? What is the routine? What is the habit I'm going to have to do in order to make this a reality? And this is thinking strategically. I want to encourage you that are in the room here on wisdom, hit that button, join the conversation. Is there something that's standing out for you? Or is there something that maybe resonates with you? What about those moments that you gave up something to accomplish more? Or maybe that moment that you said yes, and in the middle of it, you were like, I should have said no. Go ahead and hit that button, smash that button, join the conversation as we are talking about today thinking strategically. More specifically, what does it mean to think strategically? And what it means is that you are able to pivot and you are able to think of a solution even when you feel like there isn't one. And the key word there is feel. So oftentimes we allow our emotions to be the driving force. And you have an option here. You have an option of what is going to be your driving force. Is it going to be your emotions or is it going to be your purpose? You have the option. What is going to be the thing that moves you? Your emotions or your purpose? You have to begin to take into consideration the fact that if you want to accomplish a breakthrough moment, you cannot maintain with the same thinking pattern, with the same thinking mindset. It just isn't going to work. It's going to require a new thought, it's going to require a new mindset. And as a personal growth strategist, what I do is that I work with individuals to think strategically so that they can accomplish their breakthrough moment, so that they not feel stuck, so that it would not be that 5 years, 10 years from now, you're looking back and saying, where did the time go? Heck, so that it wouldn't be that come December at the end of the year, you're looking back and saying, I had 12 months, 365 days, 52 weeks, and I didn't use not one of them. That would be a difficult feeling. And for some of you, you've felt that before. I know I've felt that before. The feeling that what happened? I was going so strong. I was doing it all right. What happened? January has come and gone. 1 month down, 11 to go. And now as we head into the first days of February here in the year 2023, you have to begin to think, am I on track to accomplish my goal? Or have I allowed myself to be derailed? Here's another way of thinking about the phrase of thinking strategically, right? Another way of defining thinking strategically is thinking outside of the box. However, this phrase, thinking outside of the box, I think has become oversaturated. I think it's become watered down. I think it's been adulterated way too much, this phrase of thinking outside the box. And what it originally means is to think strategically, is to take into consideration the possible challenges, the possible giants, the possible dragons that you may encounter on your journey of looking for the treasure. And the reason I like using that illustration of giants and dragons is because we've all seen the fairy tale stories. We've all seen the fairy tale stories where the prince embarks on a journey, the hero embarks on a journey. Maybe he doesn't see or she doesn't see themselves as a hero, but they go on this hero's journey. And they have a map. Oftentimes they have some friends that go on the journey with them. They take the map, they take these friends, and they go on this journey. And along the way, each of them discovers something of themselves and something of their community. And along the way, they face a giant and they defeat the giant. And on the other side, they face a dragon. And if they're able to defeat the dragon, then they arrive to this location where the treasure awaits, where many individuals have attempted to grab the treasure but have failed and died. We've all heard those stories. But our life is like that, where oftentimes we embark on a journey, we have a plan, we know exactly where we're going. We may even create a community so that we can surround ourselves with people that would nourish our vision. Along the way, we discover some things of ourselves, of our community. But what happens when the giant comes? Most often, what takes place is that the threat is so big. Most often, the threat is so much that we either push people away so that they not see us crumble, or we simply run away so that we would not crumble. And think about where you are in your journey. Are you pushing people away so that they would not see you crumble? Or are you just simply running away so that the pressure would not be too big and you would not crumble? And maybe you've defeated the giant, but it took a lot out of you. Now you find yourself on a journey where you have to face these dragons and these memories and thoughts. And this is what happens on the journey of accomplishing a breakthrough moment. And so the question of today is, what does it mean to think strategically? What it means is that you are able to pivot and you are able to see a solution, think of a solution, even when you don't feel like there is one. And how many times have you felt like you're cornered in and there's no way out? There's nothing you can do. And I tell you, so often I've seen individuals where what they do is that they push people away because we don't want to be seen at our worst situation. We don't want to be heard at our worst moment. Worst of all, we don't want anyone to see us crumble. And we think that isolating ourselves is going to actually help, but what it happens is that we are now lost in the echoes of negativity. And the only voice we hear is our own, echoing back to us the negative thoughts that we have swirling around our minds. If you feel that way, I want you to know that that isn't the only alternative. Like, it doesn't have to be that way. The journey towards becoming a better you doesn't have to be one where by the time you become a better you, you're drained and you feel like you've got nothing to give in this new promotion, in this new place, in this new version. Like, it shouldn't be that way. It shouldn't be that by the end of the year you're so done with it. Like, you're happy that the year is over because it just took everything out of you. It shouldn't be that way. Now, does that mean that life is going to be simple? No. In the words of Forrest Gump, life is like a box of chocolate. You never know what you're going to get. But when you think strategically, even in the face of the giants, even in the face of the dragons, even in the face of the naysayers, the doubters, the internal voices that say you'll never make it, you are able to pivot and you are able to see a solution even when you don't feel like one. It's possible. So, what's it going to be? Is this going to be the year of your breakthrough? Or is this going to be just another year where you started off strong, but you did not reach the treasure? Is this going to be another year where you said, new year, new me, but you did not accomplish what you set out to accomplish? Or is this where the story starts? Is this where your hero's journey starts? Where by the end of the year, you see yourself differently, and those around you see you differently, and you obtain the treasure that eluded you for so long because it seemed as though you would never, ever obtain it. So, what's the next step? If you're listening here on the Wisdom application, simply go to the comment section, simply go to the message section and send me a message. Say the word legacy, and let's work together so that you can build this legacy mindset. So often people talk about a growth mindset and a fixed mindset. A fixed mindset says things are the way they are and they'll never change. A growth mindset says things are the way they are, but I can make a change. A legacy mindset takes under consideration, how will I be remembered when I have left the room, and how will I be remembered when I have left this earth? And it thinks about the long haul. And so I would encourage you, if you're listening on the Wisdom app, there in the message section, message me, type in legacy. Or you can visit my website. To those who are listening on the Strategy Rewind podcast or on the Wisdom application, you can just visit my website, miguellebron.com. There you can select coaching, and you can check out a free resource that we have on core values. And we also answer the question on, can our core values change? Again, this is going to help you with setting your goals and where you want to be. But also there you can click on that button to set up a free strategy session. We can work together to at least determine where you are, which is the initial part of being able to set forth a strategy that leads to a breakthrough moment. Thank you for being connected here today, and remember to surround yourself with people that will nourish your vision.